Smith, and this is the early edition of SportsCenter for Tuesday, the 14th of May. While the Hurricanes wait, the eye of the storm is staring back at Toronto. 6 games between the Sens and Leafs now mean nothing. Only the final game matters, tonight. It is Game 7 of the Battle of Ontario. The winner goes to Carolina to decide who will play for the Stanley Cup. That should be incentive enough, but Ottawa has more at stake, like avoiding the distinction of 3 straight playoff losses to the same team, especially when that team is dreaded Toronto. To stop that trend, the Senators need to keep another one going. More on our Molson Canadian playoff report. David Amber joins me from the Air Canada Centre now, where the Sens have won 2 of the 3 games played there in this series. The road team has done well, and the Sens and Leafs have alternated wins and losses. David, I suppose that should bode well for Ottawa tonight.
It should in a normal series, but Rod, so far this series has been completely unpredictable. The Sens stroll into the ACC in Game 1 and blow the Leafs out 5-0. But since then, it's been a very competitive series. We've had 4 one-goal games and 1 two-goal game, courtesy of an empty net goal, thanks to Radek Bonk. So it's only fitting that the Battle of Ontario goes the distance. And with more on tonight's Game 7, here is John Liu.
Speculation over Matt Sundin's status for Game 7 was finally laid to rest. Sundin has not been given medical clearance and will not play. So now the Leafs will head into their second 7th game of the playoffs with a lineup that's well prepared for pressure thanks to the adversity it's faced.
Of course, it's do or die, but you know, you got to approach the game just like any other game and don't change anything you would do before, and you know, you just got to give it your best and see what happens.
Yeah, I think we showed that a lot of character the last game where we were down 2-0 after basically 2 shifts and came back and were able to win the game. I think obviously that gives a lot of confidence.
The Senators are not buying into the theory that experience relieves pressure and firmly believe they can put the hammer down even though they blew a glorious opportunity to finish the Leafs at home in Game 6.
I think you guys make a bigger deal of you know, experience and stuff like that than it really is. I mean, everybody has their first Game 7 they play in, and Stevie Yzerman did too, and Joe Sack and all these other guys. So don't want to get experience by playing it. These guys have all played big games in the past.
But to do so, they'll have to make do without their steadiest and most physical defenseman, Zdeno Chara, who clearly was missed in Game 6. Captain Daniel Alfredsson will also have to come up with a big game while ignoring the abuse he'll take from Leaf fans for his controversial hit on Darcy Tucker in Game 5.
Nothing I can control, really, and you know, usually when you're on the ice, you're so focused, you don't really hear all the things that are happening in the stands or the chairs or booze or whatever it is. You're so focused on what you're doing, and it doesn't really become a distraction at all.
We've had games this year without him, and I guess just a matter of the guys in the room here going out and doing it together. And you know, every team goes through injuries, and you miss guys, and the other guys step in and do the job. So that's what we're doing tonight.
Chara's replacement will again be Ricard Persson, whose boarding major turned the tide in the Leafs' favor in Game 6. Steve Martins will fill in for Mike Fisher at center again. On the Leafs side, forward Gary Volk is not yet ready to go, but defenseman Jyrki Lumme could be. He'll be a game-time decision. Reporting from the ACC, I'm John Liu for SportsCenter.
Second 7th game ever. It is the Leafs' second 7th game this postseason. And with more on it, here is the Molson Canadian playoff breakdown with Gord Miller, Bob McKenzie, and Pierre Maguire.
Always great when a series goes the limit. No one knows that better than the Toronto Maple Leafs and their fans. Over the last 10 years, the Maple Leafs have played in more 7th games than any other team in the National Hockey League. This will be their 8th, and tomorrow night the Colorado Avalanche will play in their 7th when they take on San Jose. You heard David Amber talk a moment ago about the go-to guys for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Isn't it interesting that the key guys for Ottawa to shut down are 2 former 67s, Gary Roberts and Alan McCauley?
And they're driving the Ottawa Senators defense nuts because they're always getting to the traffic areas, to the front of the net. And guys like Wade Redden, Chris Phillips, Zdeno Chara when he's playing in Shane Knighty, they can't contain these players, but it's also about speed. Gary Roberts wins a race, puts a puck on goal. There's Alan McCauley right in the slot to finish it off. Now, face-off win, Aki Berg goes back to his partner. Gary Roberts drives the net, Alan McCauley drives the net, create a screen, get traffic. Puck doesn't get through, but Ponikarovsky will keep the play alive. Throw it at the goal. Gary Roberts right on the doorstep trying to finish it off. He battles with Chris Phillips. McCauley goes back to support. Again, McCauley drives to the net. Gary Roberts finishes a play to McCauley. Bam! To the back of the net. That's all about effort. That's why these guys are so successful. McCabe comes through the neutral zone. Roberts chips a puck in deep. Travis Green goes and wins a race. Shane Corson goes and support him. Watch number 7, Gary Roberts. He doesn't blow by the net. He posts up right in the slot, rebounds right there. Bam! put it to the back of the net. Gary Roberts, spectacular. McCauley and Roberts are a huge problem for the Ottawa Senators. And if Ottawa doesn't get the appropriate matchup, they will have a tough time winning Game 7.
And it's funny how the complexion of this series has changed from the beginning. At the first, it was the Toronto Maple Leafs who were at a huge disadvantage because Matt Sundin wasn't in the lineup, no Dmitry Yushkevich. The #1 center, #1 defenseman, both missing. Ottawa was healthy. Ottawa was big and strong, typified by Zdeno Chara and what he's meant offensively and defensively to the Ottawa Senators. But now he's out with a knee injury, and the whole complexion of this series has changed. That injury, along with the absence of center Mike Fisher, now leaves the Ottawa Senators without their #1 defensive defenseman and their #1 forward, at least in terms of face-offs, penalty killing, and grit. So the big advantage that the Ottawa Senators had early in the series is now gone. It's much more of a level playing field, and when you get to Game 7, that's about what you would expect.
Now, for the Ottawa Senators, the bad sign is when you don't clinch on home ice in Game 6. And historically, that's not been a good sign. Think of some of the most famous examples. Last year's Stanley Cup final, New Jersey had a chance to close it out at home in Game 6. Didn't. Colorado won Game 7, of course, took home the Stanley Cup. In the '97 playoffs, Ottawa knows this all too well. A chance to clinch on home ice in Game 6 of that series. Didn't get it done and lost Game 7 in Buffalo in overtime on that goal by Derek Plant. Perhaps the most famous recent example, 1994, Mark Messier guaranteed a win on the road in Game 6 by the Rangers. They won that game and then took Game 7 at Madison Square Garden on the goal in double overtime by Stéphane Matteau. And, of course, the Rangers that year went on to capture the Stanley Cup. And historically, at least over the last 10 years, teams that have a chance to clinch at home in Game 6 and don't do well in Game 7. They're 4-11 over the stretch of time. It begs the question, Pierre, where's the killer instinct for Ottawa?
Well, they just forgot about their game plan, and chances that they had to clinch it out on home ice, they just let everything go away. Now they've got to get pucks in deep, simplify their game, make sure they punish the Toronto Maple Leafs defense, and if they don't, Gord's absolutely right, the killer instinct's not there.
And I'll tell you what, if Ottawa does lose this game tonight, the Dragon's still out there. It needs to be slain by the Senators, and people are questioning this team's heart. A great chance for the Senators tonight to really put that to rest. And by the way, it's a good thing it's a playoff game, not a preseason game, because in the preseason, you have to dress at least 10 regulars, and Rod, I'm not sure Toronto has quite that many in the lineup.